signed up for the land and.
You get her working, Mary?
Stevens, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was more for
It's more the-
professionals.
more for the.
Morning,
department
Joy.
of
Exactly.
land.
Good morning.
So
Let me, just give me a heads up when there's something I should be
we
at.
have our annual conference in March. That's gonna be in the Dallas. That would be a good one to have. those two full committee members to. So I would recommend. it.
No audio.
Send me a note and say, Kate, please come.
Can you
to
hear us?
I will do
Julie?
that. That would be better for you. for the other one.
I can hear you.
For that one, so,
Can you hear us, Julie?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so,
Okay, we can't hear her.
And I've canceled the ones for Stevens Point.
okay.
Can you hear me now, Andy?
Julie, can you hear us? Can you say something, please? Okay, she can hear us. but still
Can you
can't
hear me now?
Be on her end, maybe.
Hello,
Hello, who's on the phone?
this is Dan Stokes.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
I'll do a check and see if
They apparently can't hear us.
Pardon? You can't.
They apparently can't hear us.
didn't turn things.
I can
on
hear you
for
guys.
extension.
Yeah, I can hear them, but they can't hear us. They're working on it.
Control through extension.
Audio.
Oh, the system.
Can you hear me yet?
Yep, I can hear you yet.
No, not you.
Really
Dan.
interesting. And somebody suggested that I speak to the DNR of Wilshire County. And so I did, and I got a note, a phone call from the guy who's the head of it
Okay,
there.
who was it? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Or maybe it was an email. And what happened from there is he said, we are happy to come and look at your land. Well, of course, as a landowner, you sit there and say, wait a minute here. What I'm wanting is to find out if I can get and we've only got about an acre, and we've got a little slough that comes around in a valley where once upon a time they were digging clay for bricks.
Oh, okay.
And what's happened is we've got canary grass all down there.
Okay,
We want to get it to burn down,
yeah,
and it's wet. I mean, you walk on there and you're squelching each step you take.
okay,
And what I'm wanting to do is get natural,
Yeah.
native plants there.
yeah. Canary's a tough one, so it's gonna take multiple treatments probably. Spraying it down.
Yeah. And now I'm to the point of saying, King's X, I don't want, you know what? I'm trying to do something that you guys want me to do.
Yeah.
But you're coming in and saying, and we're gonna come and check to see if you're doing it right.
Yeah, sometimes you.
So I'm sorry, I'm talking to you about this.
Try
That does make me
something.
very cautious.
Good morning,
I want
Andy.
to do it right.
Yeah.
I want to get that
Hello.
coconut fencing up.
Hello?
Reported on my land, I
Can you
found
hear
this
us now?
endangered species is-
Yep, I can hear you guys.
Those are just what it was. So,
So you're not.
Can you hear me?
Here?
There, can you, I think we heard you there. Can you-
Hello? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hello?
All right,
My friends
thank
on
you.
Eagle River, public path through their land.
Do we
So
have,
remember, will never.
can I?
Hello? I can hear you guys.
Excuse me.
You heard it.
I just want to make sure I can hear everybody on the call. Who is on the telephone?
I have two, I just have to write it up to.
Dan, he's talking to you.
Oh, okay.
You can hear me? Okay.
This is Dan. Yep. So this is Dan Stokes.
Okay, all right, we're good.
Okay, now we'll call the meeting to order. Would we confirm the meeting has been properly posted?
Yes, we are, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from the June 2nd LCC meeting. Do I have a motion?
Could I point out one thing on
So
those,
moved.
on the minutes? I had the wrong date, just so you know.
Okay, we have a question.
Yes, on the minutes I had April 7th I had written by accident. It should be May 5th. Just to make the committee aware of that.
We're at on the minutes.
Approve the April 7th I had, and I had the previous
Okay.
month on there by accident.
We're on the
So,
second page, right?
it'd be the first page, the third line down where we approve the minutes from the June 2nd meeting.
Oh, I see it, yeah. Third paragraph down. That should be what, the
May
May?
5th it should.
Okay, everybody got that? May 5th meeting?
Move to approve with correction.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
I would have.
Aye.
One year.
And we have one abstention. Minutes are approved. Announcements. Yeah.
Yes, I have several announcements. The first one I just want to mention is the Monsanto class action settlement. So what this is it's MS4 permittees within PUC 12s adjacent to 303D water bodies that are impaired by PCBs. They'd be eligible or potentially eligible for some of this money. So that would make Winnebago County eligible because of the Winnebago system. It is a 303D water body. And a portion of that, if not all, has PCB pollutants. So the settlement, it's a nationwide settlement. It's going to hearing on October 13th of this year. And there's $500 million in this settlement. So I just wanted to make the committee aware of that. We are eligible. There's nothing we have to do until the hearing is held in October. And I don't know how much money we could get. It could be 10,000, it could be 50,000, it could be more. But we are definitely eligible and part of the settlement. So I guess I'll keep you all posted if I hear any more once the hearing is done in October, and we'll see if the county receives any funds for that settlement. And again, that was for PCB pollution from Monsanto.
We do with that money.
From my understanding, it'll go back into the general fund. I don't know if it'll go right to our department. That's what I was told from Corp Counsel.
Oh,
So, but we could explore that more if need be, see if there's any flexibility there. But that's my understanding, is to just go back into the general fund for the county. I just wanted to let you all know, you'll be receiving an invite probably pretty quick here. I think they went out in the mail yesterday. We're having a kickoff event for the Great Lakes Sediment and Nutrient Reduction Program. That's our Nrda Grant for the Rat River Wildlife Area, where we're working with several farmers on soil health practices. So you're all going to be invited. It's on July 20th from, I think it's around 11 o'clock to 12:30. There's going to be a lunch provided. So the committee's invited, the county exec, county board supervisors within the Rat River watershed, town chairs within that watershed. So there's about 20 to 25 people that are invited, and then there's going to be a few small presentations just kicking off that grant for everybody, just to get you all in the loop with what's going on. So look for that. That should be coming soon. It's going to be held here for that.
right here in this building.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we're going to have it here. So our department, I was fully staffed officially for 1 month, and I got a resignation for another employee within the department. So back to the drawing board. Haley Lucas, our conservation technician, is picking up and just moving out to Arizona. So just
how long was she employed?
a year and a half. So not real long, which can be frustrating when you do the training and the time, and it is what it is. There's nothing we can do, but she's just going out there to hike and just live out west, I guess. So good thing is I put it out on announcement last week. I have a couple good applicants. I'm going to give it another week or two, and then we'll do job interviews and hopefully get somebody on board sooner than later. It's just a bad time of year to lose somebody with construction, and we have a lot of green people in the office now, so we're working hard. Melanie in our office is working extra hard to try and keep our heads above water with designs and oversight and all that, but we'll get there. So just want to make you aware of that. Couple other things. The Stabino Breakwall project we finished everything but about 60 feet because we ran out of ice conditions. So I reached out to Tom Radke and I'm looking to get a price to barge in the last 60 feet for that break wall. So he's gonna work on that and my grant's gonna expire March of next year. So I'm gonna see where Radke comes in with the price to barge in the last 60 feet. If it fits within what I have for my grants, we'll go ahead and just get that last 60 feet done. If not, I might just close out the project. I mean, we got 95% of the project done. I'm happy where we're at. But if we can get that last little bit done with the funds, that would be great. But I don't know where the numbers are gonna come in at. So we'll have to
That's
see.
the Breakwall by Winnie County.
That's the one. There's just a little bit to wrap around those cane beds a little
And
bit.
I did go out there and look at it at length the other day, because I had a boat that needed to be test run anyways, and
Okay.
I can certainly see where that last 5%, in my opinion, is the most critical 5% of the whole break wall.
Yeah.
It's like, God, I hope they plan on going just a little bit more here, and
The idea was to wrap it around those canes. We had problems with the river currents. We couldn't get the ice and I was even gonna go further than 60 feet, but it's just not gonna work out with the money we have. But if I could get another 60 feet, we would at least protect it from this
I do
predominant
know the
winds.
barge he uses to haul rock is the same barge that we shoot the fireworks from, and the barge is literally less than
Right
100 yards away from where we want to dump the rock. So
In my mind, it seems simple to come up with a price. It's right there, but I have a feeling it may come in higher than I'm hoping
I
based on how the prices.
hope you're wrong, but it's expensive to haul rock.
So we will see on that. We'll cross our fingers. And then that leads me into the last thing. Prices are coming in double, if not triple, for a lot of the work we do. So what we're running into, we're already down to about $68,000, $70,000 in our county program that we have for projects. So we're gonna run out of funds this year is what's gonna happen. So we're gonna be taking all the projects we have, we're gonna prioritize all the projects based on what's the highest priority, fund those projects. And then the county program will get hopefully refunded in 2023. We'll have additional funds then, but the county program was approved for 100,000. We have about 87,000 that was chipped away in previous years to meet budget levies. So my goal, and we'll talk about it more in the budget, that I want to get that built back up. But so my point is, money's not going as far as it used to.
For everybody.
Everybody, yes, and that's all I have.
Very much so, thank you. Chairman's report, let me start off, if you would, take your minutes and look on the second page, and that was the update on the report from the Winnebago Waterways Program. During that presentation, I made the comments that perhaps we could find a way to increase the annual commitment that we have as a county, which is currently $20,000. Increase that amount. What I need to do is apologize. I should not have said that because I should have waited to see what the budget was going to be and how things would work out. The county exec directs the departments on how much they can increase their budget. You're going to see for next year, we got a no levy increase. So that means we're just not going to be able to have the money to increase our allotment to Foxwell watershed. There's just no money to do it. So I spoke prematurely as chairman, and I do apologize. I should not have done that. And obviously, there's some people on Foxwell watershed, perhaps other people in Calumet and Fond du Lac County that are going to be disappointed. But it is what it is. We're going to get into that a little more detail when we do the budget. Shall be upcoming here. Any questions of myself? Thank you. Okay, well, we'll move on then to, yes.
The voting, you want to mention as far as that is required.
Yeah, oh, I guess we gotta go back. Yeah, that's a very good point. Julie, can you hear me?
Yes, Chuck, I can hear you.
You moved to approve the minutes?
Can't I do that remotely? It's not a vote.
You cannot do that. So we're gonna be talking about that too very shortly. So I'll need to go back. Do I have somebody here seated in their seat? That can move
Second
to approve.
still.
And a second?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor of that new motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Julie, we're gonna talk about this in detail, so bear with me. First thing on the business item is to review and approve the NR 151 ATCP 50 implementation compliance notification letters. And that has to do with Farm Pres,
Yes.
which is only in one town in the county, and that's the town of Nepiesco.
So what we have here are, I had 5 farms written on the agenda item report. That's actually 7 farms when you look at the spreadsheet. So Sheila Smith, the agronomist with our office, what she does is goes out to the farm and she's looking at their cropland to deem that they're in compliance with the agricultural performance standards. So she's looking for erosion, gully erosion, making sure everything's stable. And then she'll certify that. And once she certifies that everything's in compliance, these landowners can claim their farmland preservation credit. So it's a requirement with the state that all farmers farm in compliance, but there's a few caveats with that. We have to offer cost sharing, and our committee has decided we're taking a voluntary approach to work with farmers throughout the county. So we're kind of getting that low-bearing fruit to work with farmers to get them in compliance, and that's been working out really well. And then down the road, we may come back to work with these farmers in the future, but for that one township, like Chuck mentioned, FPP still exists. So these would be just 7 farms that we would send letters to so they can claim their credit.
Would you define the credit for the new members of the committee, please? They get a dollar amount per acre. And in this case, are we looking at 750 or 10?
I think it's 10, but I would have to check with.
750.
750?
I think so.
Okay, I would have to check
I was
with
at the
Sheila.
meeting, so I'm pretty sure. So.
So in other words, they're in a state program called Farmland Preservation, which imposes restrictions and requirements on that land. And the reward for that is they get a $7.50 per acre tax credit, correct?
I think they needed like 80% of the township to sign up to do the.
Yeah. Isn't the 750 in a tax credit?
I believe.
Yes.
I'm not sure it's direct payment. I think
That's
it's tax.
tax credit, yeah.
So that's kind of how that program works in a very broad summary. Anything else?
No, again, it's just one township. We used to have more townships, but that changed back in 21. So it's just one township for the whole county for us.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 The notification letters are approved. Review the draft of the 2023 Land Water Conservation Department budgets. Now, let me say, you're seeing a little more itemized budget than other departments might see. That was at my request because I feel the committee needs to be aware of the details of budgets. And Chad will take us through that. In particular, on the second page or the back page, you have the highlights of Fox Wolf watershed. Chad? Tell us
Okay.
what you got there.
So what I'm gonna do here, what I highlighted in yellow were some of the significant changes within the budget. So I'm not gonna hit on every single line item here. I'm just gonna hit on those main points. And on the far right of the budget sheet, you'll see a line number. And I'll just refer to that as I go down through the budget here. So starting at the top would be line item number 2. That was a small increase. We get money from the state Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection. There's money for staffing in there, about 185,000, and the rest would be for cost sharing. So the estimated numbers I got from the state was a small increase of about $6,500 from the state for staffing costs.
No, that represents an increase in the swarm grants, correct?
Yes.
But we're not fully funded yet.
No.
We
So
are at what, 95% of full funding?
ooh, it might be even a little less than that.
Okay,
Yeah, so the state, what state statute says that DADCAP is supposed to fund 100% of your highest paid position, 70% of your second highest, and 50% of your third highest. And they're not able to meet that yet. So we fight every other
every
year.
year.
Yeah,
That's why I'm asking a question. I'm on a state committee, and that's one of the questions that comes up every year. Try to get more funding for that.
so it's always a fight, and that's where our organization with Matt Krieger with Wisconsin Land and Water really fights and lobbies to try and get that money put back in, which we did get a bump in the last budget, so we'll see what the next biennial budget does. So that's the first line item. And line item 2, line item 3, there was a reduction. That's our wildlife damage program. The only reason there's a reduction in there is because they hired a new employee who is lower on the pay scale. So I lowered that budget item to reflect that. Line item 6, 6, 7, and 8, those are our MDV accounts. So that's the money we get from the MDV program. So the first one is from Fond du Lac. There was a reduction from them, so they ratcheted down their pollutant loading. So we get a little bit less money to work with farmers in the watershed from the city of Fond du Lac. And then we had 2 new players that came into the MDV for 23. That would be Green Lake Waste Treatment. We're getting $12,000, a little over $12,000 from them. And then Westfield Waste Treatment Facility, we're getting $4,200. The reason we're getting it from those outside groups is because it's within the watershed that drains to us. So that's why we're getting that.
What does MDV mean?
That's a multi-discharger variance. So it's a program through the state where for example, the 3 here are wastewater treatment plants. So they discharge into the water body. So they clean the wastewater, but there's still pollutants in that wastewater and they need to ratchet it down. And if they can't do it with the facility, then they can offset it to pay land conservation departments to work with farmers to put in practices to us. It's almost like trading in a way to get conservation on the land and reduce the pollution.
It allows them a lot more time to find the capital to redo their plants. They're talking a lot of money, so that was a way to offset that to meet the state standards.
So that's why you're seeing those 3 accounts there. Line 13, that is my NRDA grants. So I really want to point this one out. I'm bringing in $15,000 in revenue. And that was a big part of why, like Chuck said, there's a 0 levy increase. So I have the same target as I had pretty much last year. So I'm bringing in grant revenue one time, the $15,000 to really help me meet my levy target. That won't be there next or in 24, but I brought it in this time to help me out to be able to meet my levy target. Line 14, that was just a grant that expired. So that's no longer grant money we have for the knockout grant. That was breakwall money for that one. If you go down to line 22, I just dropped that down because the plat book came out this year and I anticipate less sales in 23. Line item 23 is staff changes. So we are planning for a 4% wage increase. And the reason why it's not quite 4% is because I have new staff that start lower on the pay scale. So it's a little bit lower. And then the fringe benefits right below that on 24, that went down just because there was changes, whether you're married, single, kids growing up. It just saved me a little bit of money in that budget item. Line,
Is that just on health insurance then?
that would be, it would be all the fringes, health, dental, but the health is where you really get the savings. Yes. Yep. Line 37, Planning and zoning used to pay for, it's our computer program, it's called ArcGIS, that's where we do a lot of our mapping. So planning and zoning used to pay for those fees, now they're getting passed on to us. It was $1,200, I started covering this year, and then there's one more license, it's almost $2,000 that I have to cover in my budget now. So that's why you see an increase there for that additional license of $700 for 23.
Nothing we can do about that, huh?
Yeah, I was wondering, how come they can pass it off?
Yeah, that's my question.
Well, it's a program we use in-house, so we need it for, Andy needs the bigger program, and then we have one floating license that everybody uses within the department. And now we're starting to go more web-based for the other employees for our GIS, but we do use it, and I had a hard time arguing it, so I didn't push back.
You're arguing with who?
Is ARC more specific for design then?
ARC would be more specific for mapping.
Yeah.
So the web-based there's not as many tools to go in there and change things, whereas the ArcView, that's where we really track all of our BMPs, our aid compliance. You really go in there and it gets more complicated, and you have to have that program.
This is from, you said, debate or argue the point, is that through Connie Zapp or who was that?
No, this would have been from,
Mike?
it would be Jerry and Adam Dorn is the GIS specialist.
Okay,
Yep. So
in other words, he's saying I got a zero levy too, so I gotta find a way to cover that.
it
right?
kind of started last year. His argument is, why are we paying for Land and Water's licenses for your department? So.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, I mean, $2,000 for a small department over the last couple of years, you feel it, so. Line 46, that's just a reduction in small equipment needs. So we had the new drone purchase this year and new computers. There's just a little bit less of a need for next year for that. That's why you see that reduction. Line 53, we had our initial cost to publish the plat books. So I dropped that number, but I left a little bit of money in there where I think it's going to be a really nice way to go, where we can just buy as we need instead of buying 500 or 1,000 plat books. I think we have only 60 left from what we bought. So it's nice because if we get down, then I could buy them in 25 number increments. So we're not having all these plat books floating all over. We have boxes sitting in our department that we're trying to get rid of. Some of the older versions we're giving away for free, and they're just taking up space. So I think this is a much better approach with plat books. Okay, on the back page, we'd be on line 54. This is just my expense account for the wildlife damage program. So that's $1,000 less. We make about $1,000 in revenue for the administrative cost from the program. So that's just that account to show.
No, explain wildlife damage to me.
Okay, so
Is that the bear coming in and tearing stuff up?
pretty much bear,
Okay.
deer, cranes, geese.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can get shooting permits to shoot deer. And it's managed through the wildlife damage program through USDA. And then we set the crop prices at the end of the year. You'll be a part of that at the end of the year, setting those prices, approving the claims for those things. We don't have a whole lot of farmers. It's usually 2 to 4 farmers. maybe.
Almost always the same guy there.
Yeah.
Aren't we fully funded by USDA for staff costs?
We are.
Okay, so.
Yep,
how
so I
do we
get-
reduce. How do we reduce that? Is that what you're doing now?
I reduced it, but their administrative costs are built into that in our budget for their time.
Okay,
So you'll see that on the front page, the revenue is 12,000 and then 11,000 for expenses. We make about $1,000 for our time to run the program, roughly. Yep, so that's still reflected. That didn't change at all.
that's reflected.
I just bumped it down a little bit. Yep. So this is the next line item 55. This is the one that Chuck was alluding to. So I initially put $5,000 in here as a possibility to increase it. But my recommendation would be to keep it at the $20,000 like we've been doing. And the next line item 57, that's our county program. And like I talked earlier, with the price of everything coming in, that program is becoming more and more valuable. And we're currently at $87,500. I would bump that up to 94,000 is probably what I'm gonna end up doing. And then that extra 1,000, I skimmed a lot of my accounts. I'll just put that back in so I'm not selling myself short. A big one's gonna be gas, where I don't think I'm probably gonna have enough money in here. I wanna bump that up just in case we're at 4.50 a gallon next year. That way I'm covered. So that line item, I'm gonna drop that to 20,000 now. It's gonna go to the executive committee. They'll talk about it with the 3 counties. But that's a recommendation I would do. It's still, we're still chipping in money for that program, and Washera County maybe chipping in money as well. They haven't been. And I suggested it at the meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I know they met with their committee. So that would bring that program up to 80,000. So the Calumet, Fond du Lac, us, and if Washera is on board, that would help that program. So the concept was this is seed money to build that program, and that's exactly what happened. And that program is going to do great. So if we can just continue on this path, I think that's a good thing.
In addition to that, the contract you're referring to originally, I believe, was a 5-year contract.
Expires the end of next year.
And that expires the end of next year. So that might be a more of an appropriate time to address how much the funding is from each county. Now, the change sheet, my apology to start with under my report and the changes he just recommended. Is everybody okay with that on the committee level? No issues? Julie, you okay with that?
I'm fine with that,
Yep.
Chuck.
$5 grand back into
I'm
our,
fine with it.
okay. Because we really need the money, you know. Okay, well, Chad will make those changes, and we'll be meeting, Chad and I meet with the county executive in August. And that's what we'll present to them. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay. So I covered line item 57. Again, that's our county program. That money leverages so much more money for this department for grants. I can, use a portion of that to apply for grants, bring in more money, and it's becoming more and more valuable. So I'm going to bump again that up to probably 94,000 and get it closer to the approved 100,000. I'd really like to get it up to 100,000 at some point, but I'll be happy if we can get that up to 94,000. Have a little more money in there.
If I might inject something, depending on, in October, we're all going to be doing the county budget as county supervisors, right? During that budget process, supervisors can offer amendments to the budget. So, and there are going to be a lot of them. There generally is a lot of amendments. You might want to consider amendment that would support that county program a little more. Just a thought. We got a long ways to go here, but that is an option that we have as supervisors. So bear that in mind, if you will. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay, down to line 62, 63, and 64. These are just the expense accounts for the MDV program. So it's money in, money out for the grant. So we just have to reflect that in the budget. So the numbers are exact from the front page. Line 68, that would be the NRDA money. So again, like I mentioned, to meet my levy target, I pulled 15,000 out of those NRDA funds. There's 30-some thousand dollars that are remaining, and that's about $17,000. That's the remaining money, and that would be for the Stabino breakwall that I referred to earlier. That's part of the grant money we have available to do that breakwall.
So you've got 31 grand left.
Well,
Oh,
there's
you got 16
left.
17, yeah.
Yep, that's what's left with the NRDA grant, which I will be very happy when that grant's done, because there's every month I have to log in and there's all this reporting. It's very time consuming. So it'll be nice to get that one wrapped up. It's been around for probably 4 years or so.
Doug, you know Tom Radke pretty well, don't you? I know him too, but not that well. Just
I'll try to
Thought I
buy him a
mentioned
couple of cocktails and see if we can get the lowball price instead of the highball price.
And that's not the total amount of what we have. We do have some other grants with that, but I'm not going to throw that number out there. I want to see what Tom comes back with first. So.
They'll sell the farm.
Maybe I could just rent his barn for a month and we do it ourselves. I don't know, I got a little tractor.
All right, so we're down to line item 70. That again is that Nrda grant that expired, so it's the expense account, so that is at a zero. 71, so how it works with the budget this year is I have to meet my levy target, which I did. If there's anything above that, I have to have a budget request. So then the exec is gonna look at all the budget requests, basically a wish list from all the departments, and then decide what the priorities are for the county. So one of the things I'm gonna be adding, I couldn't meet my levy target with this, but I need to replace one of our trucks. It's a 2003 F-150. So I'd be looking to sell that truck. I figured $5,000 of value for the truck, and the truck we replaced it with was $36,000. We're looking at like a mid-size, like a Chevy Colorado crew cab type truck with a topper. So there's gonna be about a $31,000 ask as an add-on, just so you're all aware of that with our budget. So that would be above and beyond my levy target.
You have to get electric vehicles.
Right.
Probably a hybrid at least.
I mean, there's options out there. There's no
I didn't
truck
know
options.
that- I didn't know what through the administration, that they have all federal type stuff, or maybe we're not federal.
That would be federal. Yeah, county would be under that radar. I mean, wouldn't be a bad idea that there's no trucks available on the state list we have, but there are SUVs. I don't know if they're full electric, but they're
I'm not
hybrid.
saying, I was curious if
Yeah.
they corrected that to the company.
So not yet. Yep. Okay, and then line item 73, that is just our time to do the management for the MS4 program. That's Andy's work. That went down. He's just getting more efficient. There's less to do. So that dropped our revenue by $5,000 for running that program.
Didn't highway pay that amount? Wasn't highway that transfer within departments to cover that?
Yep, I just got paid the $16,403 for this year. We just got that, I think, last week.
Okay,
So we bill them about this time every year.
so we're actually reducing the amount they pay us.
Yes, because it's not taking Andy as long to do the management.
Okay,
Yep. So that is what I had for the significant changes. And if you drop down the 640, 239, that was my levy target and right on for meeting it. Just be aware this is going to change a little bit. Like I said, this is a draft. There'll be some minor changes. The big one is the Winnebago Waterways program. And then some of the smaller accounts will be changed just a little bit to meet levy. So that's all I had for budget.
Is it purple money still floating around with there?
It is.
yes, there is, and the committee, that is commission, I believe, that was appointed with myself is on there. We're gonna meet, I believe, July 12th to start discussions. Now they want to include strategic planning in those discussions, so no idea where that's gonna go.
I have a feeling it's not going to move as fast as I
No, I
was
think
thinking.
it's gonna be very slow.
But those dollars, if any were allocated to our department, again, with the cost, it would be extremely helpful right now to be able to have access to some of those funds for the work we do.
I still have the resolution that we approved as committee very much in mind, so we'll see where we can go with that down the road.
I have a couple, I always have a couple of questions, don't I? The things that you're doing that you have to comply with, that creates a ton of additional work for you, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Dad cap from the state. At the local level, they come up with all these programs and it ends up on the backs of county land conservation departments for a lot of the work.
So thank you for answering that one. Because of that, is this a realistic number? Because we know that everything is doubled since last year. So it's not that I don't want you to have it. I'm just wondering, should it be $1 million?
I'm comfortable with our people right now. It's the cost sharing because like I said, those funds are going to get allocated right about, we have projects right now, but then we have a whole list of more projects. We're doing more outreach. We're just getting more active, reaching out to farmers. That's the big one, is going to be the cost sharing. I think to have enough funds for that is going to be, it'd probably be more of an issue unless we start applying for outside grants, which requires.
Which
more-
creates more
It does.
oversight, which creates more work. What about volunteers?
We could do like summer LTEs. I know the executive is definitely in favor of that. So if we needed help, that could be definitely something we do. It doesn't address the issue of funding. I think, again, the people, I think we're okay right now, but it's just the dollars to be able to assist the farmers, the lake owners, and all that with funding them. So,
Well, and I ask that because I have a son who's a wildland firefighter. And when, no longer, he's a liquor store owner and he's in the area. And so I'm sure, boy, he was at our place in Saxville and within 20 minutes had a great big branch that had fallen out of one of the oak trees sawn up. It's taken care of, and we're talking 20 minutes. So that's the kind of thing that he loves to do. I think he'd probably be very happy to volunteer for. And so if you had the need for volunteers,
yeah,
I think reaching out would be
okay.
advantageous.
Yeah, we always have stuff to do. So, and then if it helps, like college students we bring in sometimes, when they have to get a certain number of hours, like the tech, they need to get 80 hours in for a program. So I brought in several people through that program, and now they're working successfully in other counties in land conservation. So
Oh,
it
yeah.
helps us out, it helps them out. It's a really nice.
Well, and James might be able to help teach as well,
Okay,
because been there, done that.
yeah,
It was interesting because he said, Ma, I wouldn't have my little brother out there using my electric chainsaw without chaps on.
always wear the chaps.
Doug,
Just one question, it's the smallest part of the budget that I shouldn't even be asking. But on the resolution there for the to reimburse the farmers for crop loss and so forth, you mentioned it's kind of the same 2 or 3 people every year. A little bit I know up north, that whole policy has been so used and so abused by some unscrupulous landowners. Do you see that as any kind of an issue here? Or are they in a spot where it's
I think the
warranted?
biggest issue would be sometimes with the shooting permits, when you get areas where, for example, there's quality deer management, and you're
Yep,
shooting
yep,
some of those
yep,
smaller bucks, there can be some upset landowners.
Yeah,
We don't manage that part. There's an individual that goes out there, looks at the damage, determines all that. We're just handling all the paperwork, but that's where some of the controversy can come in.
Yeah.
Because they're shooting in summer, they're shooting deer.
yeah, and I've had it next to me up there and it drives you nuts. You try to maintain them and they shoot them as soon as they get across the fence. And the other thing up there in the hay fields, I mean, for a while there, they were putting out wire fence around the hay. Well, the farmer was going out with his tractor and his water bucket and watering the area where the fence is, and so my God, there was all kinds of damage then. Well, yeah. So I would just, like I say, it's a very small number, and I'm assuming you're kind of on top of that. The kill permits, that's a whole DNR thing.
That's all
That's
down,
how
they
you're
determine
at.
that, and then they have to shoot so many deer to get their payments, is how it works.
Well, that's the problem, yeah.
I totally agree. That's,
Up by us, there's one farmer, and the deal up there is you have to harvest those deer within the individual plat book section. Well, he's got 160 acres, 40 in 4 different sections, so he's given all of his permits to everybody that's a half a mile away from where his farm is, and it's, it certainly creates hard feelings. And of course, we're shackers, so we don't get to say nothing up there. So I was just curious how that program was working here.
I tell you, and I don't know, Bruce, you could relate to it, but the sandhill cranes, I put in food plots on my land, and I planted about an acre of corn. I have 2 cranes on my land. They go right, the corn gets about this tall, right down the road.
Right down the road.
They wiped out 3/4 of my corn. I'm like,
But even the farmer can get shooting permits for cranes.
you
I
can't.
have,
Okay,
but I have to apply for a year.
are they
asked me a question that I answered.
Got another question. What's a shacker?
If you own a hunting shack up north, you are the tourist, you're a shacker up there.
Oh,
is that
yeah,
north?
the
Yeah, 100 miles.
Oh, okay.
backwoods
Yeah.
turn, sure.
Yeah. I've been a shacker for 25 years. I'm still not a local. I'm going to be a shacker until I move into the shack, I guess. I don't know.
Thank you. I had to learn what a bubbler was too.
There you go.
Are there any other questions on the budget? This is a review process. So if you have a question or concern, now would be the time.
Well, I think just as she brought up the point of if there's anything you can increase, I know that they're gonna try to cut you, but I would pad down at how I pad up,
Yeah.
because they're gonna cut something out of there anyways, I mean.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to do, but again, I have $15,000 floating in this budget I brought in as one-time revenue. So what is gonna be challenging is if there's a zero levy in my next budget, that's gone. And then my people costs go up, so
Go ahead, I
I know, I try to pad it as much as I can within my limitations.
I would call it padding, they can keep up with allocation.
Julie, do you have any questions on the budget?
No, I don't. Chad's very succinct.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else on the budget, we'll move on to the next agenda item. I requested this be on the budget or on the agenda for a very definitive reason. Let me start out. Resolution 81, we're all aware of that. That was voted on last month by the county board. It passed, I believe, by one vote based on my count. Required a 2/3 vote. Since this has been passed, as you're witnessing today, this is going to have impacts on the committees. Now, what's important is that we understand the impact on this committee. In order to have a meeting, I need 4 supervisors because we have 7, so I need at least 4 seated. We know that, we'll start with Bruce. Bruce goes to Florida for 2 months out of the year, 3 months out of the year. So he will not be able to vote. We know that Julie has been attending via Zoom for quite some time for her own reasons. Julie, do you want to elaborate or not?
Sure, I'd be happy to elaborate. So I am currently working as a temporary employee with my company. So I do not get paid for my time to attend these committee meetings. In the past, I actually was able to leave work in my last job, leave work, and they would pay for my time. So this is my time. So this saves me a half an hour, 15 minutes there and 15 minutes back that I lose in pay. Also, I'm acutely aware of COVID, have been, because if I do get a bad case, I could have serious complications. So for me, this is a win-win to attend remotely. I can hear you guys, you can hear me. There's no difference between me sitting in a chair in that room and me being here at my dining room table. At least I can participate. And I gotta say, I don't know where the significant controversy came from in this resolution, but I haven't heard one. So to me, it's important that I can attend remotely because otherwise I may not be.
Thank you, Julie. So I think we all on a committee level understand how it's impacting this committee. Now, there could be a situation, especially during the winter time, when I won't be able to have a quorum. Because if we got somebody else sick, I'm desperate for a quorum.
Or weather.
Pardon me?
Bad weather. Bad roads.
Bad weather, there's all kinds of issues that could impact the function of this committee based on the passage of this resolution. So we have an awareness thing. Now, I got a email from Supervisor Norton, who is also having issues with attendance at committees that he's on. Many of those people, or at least some of them, attend by Zoom, vote by Zoom, etc., or used to be able to vote by Zoom. So he is bringing forth a resolution to amend this to say that it doesn't apply on the committee level, but it would apply on the county board level, which I still have concerns about, but I think
Ditto.
right now our function, personally, I did not support this. And I would hope people that did might want to reconsider that. But if you don't choose to do that, the other option would be to support perhaps Mr. Norton's resolution to exclude committees from this. So
Well,
that's an
absolutely-
awareness thing. I bring this to you so everybody knows how this impacts our committee.
I absolutely have that as the question.
Yeah.
Personally, I like to be in contact with other people. I find that computers can tend to isolate you some. But at the committee level, I certainly think that it should be clear that there are exceptions to be made.
Doug?
We have one, at the very least, I did support it at the county level, and I think at the county board level, not being your chair, it's my opinion, that's why you ran for the board. But we have the same issues on solid waste. I mean, we've got like three members of the committee that at the Florida in the winter, out Zoom and the remote, we would have struggle with having a quorum. So
Yes.
I look forward to McDory bringing that forward, and I think that can clear up an awful lot of the committee issues.
Okay.
Now, I would say that I am on a committee called the Diversity Committee that doesn't do in person at all. It's all done by Zoom. And again, have I met any of these people?
Do they take votes on that committee?
Yes, they do.
So now that committee is actually null and void. That committee is no longer functional.
Let me tell you that I've been to one Zoom meeting and that's it. And April, May, June, July. That's 4 months now. And I've been to one meeting.
Can I interject here?
Certainly can. Go ahead.
So I actually work remotely. I work for an engineering consulting firm, and this entire group has worked remotely from the beginning of their inception, which was over 10 years ago. So we operate very efficiently. There's probably, I don't know, within the company that I work for, there's probably about 5,000 people who are just remote, and it works fine. You just need to make a concerted effort to pay attention and just make sure that you're asking the right questions. Working remote attending meetings remote is no different. I mean, as long as you're paying attention, everything is fine.
Thank you, Julie. I don't want to belabor this. I think that does everyone on the committee understand why I brought this forward, why it's on there, and what we need hopefully to do?
Well, there was one statement in there about remote, that even Dan is on by phone, but not Steve.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Really is.
Dan, do you have a comment?
Yep.
Go ahead,
Well,
sir.
I'm just gonna say that the only reason I'm remote today is because I'm not home. Otherwise, I plan on attending.
Okay, go ahead.
But I think my point to this note was it said that you had to have the video. And in this case, we got Julie with a video and Dan remotely, that both can hear. But on his phone, maybe he just can't do it. So
Yeah.
however that communication is, they can still hear.
Yeah,
So it says it in here about they have to be able to see through the video. So
yeah.
again, as you fine tune wherever you're asking those questions, ask that also for the.
Yes.
We can hear, I mean,
Well, the court council has ruled that in order to vote, you need to have audio and visual.
I understand.
However, at our last county board meeting, we had a county supervisor who was in his car on his way to Wyoming. I certainly couldn't see him, but I think he voted. So,
No, he
just
was
so
not
you
able to
know,
vote.
huh?
He was not able to vote.
Okay.
There were
I
two
thought he
people
was
who were
voting.
unable to vote at that meeting.
And if the question is, if you understand, if you can't see them, you can only have the audio. We know Dan's voice.
Yeah.
You know my voice, because we heard from another one that, for verification at some point, it gets to be a silly point. I just as you're asking her if this is going further, that's just another point on here. This is what we're seeing on the board up here. You got one video, one call in, that by this, they won't be able to have an action. So either you can eliminate it totally out of for the committees, and we can do all this, but even also to have video and or just call in applicable. That's all I'm asking.
I'll take a
We're just
look
making
at
that statement.
Norton's resolution. And I'll have a discussion with Corp Council at some point down the road. Actually, I've been talking with her on other
Well,
issues.
it says it right in here, the camera, the microphone, and the visible range of the camera. They want to be able to see
Yeah.
it by suppose with durability of who's actually speaking.
Well, in light of all that, I'd like to make a motion that Bruce has to cancel his 3 months and 4 this year.
Well, what do you know?
I guess it's gonna die for a lack
Did you
of
get a second? Okay, I won't belabor this, but I think we're all aware, hopefully, I think we all realize that there needs to be some changes, at least in my opinion, and hopefully support of the committee.
Can I ask a question? Like
Yes, sir.
Julie spoke for industry wide there. I'm a co-chairman of 405 Bay, and we do the same thing.
Zoom?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had a meeting Tuesday, and I was the only one present at a meeting, and all the other board people called in. And they were, I think that day, I think they were all just on phone because they were all traveling. But they, it happens. It's recognized as a way of business.
Well, based on your comment, let me venture another comment. My personal observation over my 20 years on the board. And I recognize there are those that feel that you should be seated in your seat.
Sure.
But that was not the intent of that rule. You go back when that rule was established many, many years ago. We had people on the county board that would be walking around or in the bathroom or in the hallway, and votes were being taken. And that's why the rule was established. It had nothing to do with the pandemic and issues with health. Of course, now that's being used as an example to promote this resolution. I suggest that given the situation health-wise in the world, I would hope and pray to God we'll never have another pandemic, that these things don't reoccur. But I think not having that option on your county board floor could limit the function of the county board in certain situations long-term. You have situations where you have a 2/3 vote, 3/4 vote, etc. I hope nobody's sick. And the other thing is, given this, people are going to come to board meetings when they are sick because they want to vote. And I think that might
Make
affect,
everybody else sick.
right. So this will have consequences, but it is what it is now. It's like many things we do on a county level. It's there, it's established. We can always go back and look at it again. And we might want to do that in the future, but let's see how this plays out. I think the most immediate issue is a committee structure. And we do need to deal with that.
And I have two things to say. At the committee level, I absolutely agree with you. We tend to know each other's voices.
Yes.
I know that it's difficult for people not to know my voice because, okay, I can tell it's you by your voice. And I think that that's fair. Part of what I see at the board level at those meetings is that with half of us brand spanking new, you don't know what other people sound like.
Yes, that's very true.
And I do find it
But
this,
even at that level, then go and have a personal ID number that they have to log in with that pops up on the screen. That's like personal to that person, it's all taken care of. I mean, there's ways to get it on there.
and maybe that has not been considered.
Well, just
One of the things
just
that I
right
find,
there, Julie District 17, why you have, if they're so concerned about if it's a person, put a personal ID number that attached to that person, have it address up on the screen. There's ways to do it if you go.
well, and my other issue with the county board meeting is that each one I've been to has been 3.5, 4+ hours. And as you say, there are never any breaks. And so people go wandering and they're going off and they're going to the bathroom or getting a drink of water or whatever it is that they're, and if we could have official breaks in there.
Well,
would be
I
nice,
think
too.
Tom sent out an email to everybody requesting, and
Sure did.
actually a letter also.
Yeah.
Is there a way to shorten? I can tell under a previous chairman, the longest meeting I believe we had was 10 o'clock. So forward. So I think Tom is correct. Debate needs to be limited a little bit. You don't need redundant debate. You know, some person says, I'm not voting for it now, and there's 10 people saying I'm not voting for it. So there are ways we can make it a little more efficient, perhaps.
Well, I don't think we need to know how you're gonna vote for it. I thought it was supposed to be made, well, it's not a private vote.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see
they're
it on the board.
they're trying to influence everybody else. That's why they're saying it. But
Oh,
you know, there's ways to find that efficiency, but
Yeah.
we have a new board, new supervisors. We have to work through, what should we call it, growing pains for a while, for 6 months or whatever, until we get a little more incorporated into the system, I suppose. But that'll work itself out. But yeah, that's. And by the way, that probably costs the county a lot of money.
do you, I
It's
asked,
per diem per day.
I asked, and it is $2,700 for that 15 minutes.
Yeah, oh, I charge for 2 days. Oh, absolutely. I mean, if
Well, they said
you're gonna have me to
do
sit
it.
for 6.5 hours, that's the way it is.
Yeah, do it. And so I did, but it was an additional $2,700 for that
Yes.
15 minutes for all of us.
That's correct. Yeah. So that was a costly venture.
Yes.
I think we've discussed this at length. Does anybody else? Julie, you have any other comments in regard to the agenda item in this resolution?
No, certainly I think it's important at the committee level that we do get something passed. However, I would like to see this gone at the county board level as well, but that's just me.
Anybody else before we move on? Hearing none, okay, thank you. That was simply for discussion purposes.
So at the committee level, we can't make a change to that for
We have
us
to do it through the
specifically?
board. County resolution will have to pass a new, you either have to amend this current resolution or pass a new one. Okay, the next thing on the agenda, I believe is D. In my place, review and approve the Winnebago County Water Quality Improvement Program cost share. Bruce, I see your name is on here, so I assume you will abstain?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the cost share
I move that we approve the cost share.
agreements? There are
Agreements, yep.
2
Second,
and a second. Any discussion, or Chad, do you want to comment on either one of these?
Nope, just 2 well abandonments, and then what I'll keep doing in the future is including the spreadsheet for future contracts to give a little more detail for the committee.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Hey,
No opposition, the motion
How did we just pass that?
What's that?
I'm confused. How did we just pass that vote? There's three of us. I'm sorry, there's four of us.
There are
Okay.
four.
There's
Okay.
four, yeah.
I wasn't counting.
1,
Mr.
2,
Chair.
3, 4,
Sorry about that. Okay,
Okay.
and can we just, I happen to know a guy that's got 2 wells that he'd like to get abandoned. Is this a project that the county helps fund the?
Yep, this is part of
Yes.
our county program. We have money there to abandon wells. So it's a 50% cost share for most wells unless it's a high priority, like if there's manure right adjacent to it, then we'll do a 70%. There is a cap of $500 for the low priority wells and
Okay.
$1,000 for high. priority.
Town of Algoma has used this quite a bit over the years because of their water issues.
Yeah. And are there different?
Are they in the
people that you
village
work
or
with,
what?
or
Are they in the village, Don, or in town of Wayne County or what?
they might be in the village of Wayne County.
Yeah,
Yep, we'll work in the village too. Yep,
so sure, bring them forward, right, Jeff?
yep. Have them come in and we have just a process. They have to get a couple bids and then it gets submitted to DNR for the well drill report.
Okay,
There's a little bit of a process, cost share agreement, as you know.
all right,
So, yeah.
Once again, this comes out of that county fund we're referring to.
gotcha, thank you.
So again, there's a lot of demand on that program, so I can't say the money's gonna be there for the rest of the year. We may have to put the brakes on some of this stuff, but we're gonna be sitting down next week to talk about it. So
Okay, well,
Okay, that vote was correct. There was 4 voting yes, I believe.
yep.
All right, thank you for that observation. All righty, we'll move to, I did do the eyes on that, didn't I? I believe I did. Okay, the last one is agenda item E, and that's review the Land Water Conservation Department project list. You have 3 new ones on there.
Yep, so going down the highlighted orange, Jeremy Hoffman, that's in the town of Kiamai. Some pretty extreme erosion, probably 4-foot gullies. It's an area of the county where I did a project years back. Actually, the committee was out on a tour where we did a wetland restoration, but really erosive soils in this part of the county. So we're looking to probably do like a grass waterway system to try and address the erosion there. That'll probably be in 2023 for that project. Harry Hoax was a well abandonment. And then Terry Troy came in. He has beef cattle where he's looking to do a little bit of potentially manure storage system. Probably small scale, but we just preliminary met with him and that may advance into a project down the road. So we put him on the list as well. That's all on the list for new projects.
Okay, thank you. One comment before I ask for a motion to adjourn. Chad mentioned there's a meeting here on the 20th, I believe you said.
Yep.
Does anyone know who will be attending, perhaps? The reason I raise that is I cannot attend. I'm having some surgery on the 20th, actually, in that morning, so I won't be able to be here. So hopefully one of you or one of our committee members or more can attend.
Is that here?
That'll be here, lunch provided, and it's from 11 to 12:30, so short meeting, and it'd be great to have as
Did you
many.
send us an email on that?
There'll be an invite coming. They were mailed yesterday.
Yeah, good.
Yep, so you should be getting that.
I might be able to make that one.
Okay.
I should be able to make
Okay,
it.
at least we'll have some committee
Yeah.
members.
What time is it
day
from
the
until?
20th?
It's a Wednesday.
That's the day after the county board meeting, the next day.
Yeah, it starts at about 11 and then goes till about 12:30.
And solid waste at 9 o'clock. Those of you that get out at 11.
Yeah, you
It's
just drive right
a
out.
short trip.
Yeah.
Talk
Julie?
trash and then eat lunch. There you go.
Julie, any questions before we move to adjourn? Comments?
I'm good.
Okay,
Dan is there.
thank you for attending.
Dan is there.
I can't hear you. What?
Dan is there.
Dan, thanks for attending.
Yep. You're
see-
welcome. I'll see you in person.
Sounds good. Our agenda is completed. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposition, motion.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bruce, how's your
Thank
pea
you.
crop? My pea crop? When had peas. Thought you were the guy that had all those peas out there.
Peas?
Bruce used to be a big pea guy,
Oh,
right? Just have 50 acres or so, or? When we've done it, we've had a couple hundred. Really? We haven't had peas for a long time. That's pretty good size, couple hundred.
is that place still running over there and, what's that on Highway 44?
What's the question?
Oh, that place
Pea
where they
vine
process
there,
the
what-
peas.
Picket,
Pickett, yeah, thank you, I couldn't think of it. That's still running over there in Pickett?
Pea factory.
yeah.
Yeah, send that email. I think I got it right around the block.
Okay,
After like
good. It should be in
25 years
there.
ago, that's.
Oh, the building.
I'd like
You can go past there with the peas.
very, I know,
What do they use it for now? then?
Diligence on it's very.
RTI truck repair.
I mean, you're not.
Oh, my goodness.
They're doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
I'm really behind the curve, huh?
Oh, yeah, no, it's an industrial.
Take care, buddy.
It's an industrial building. Probably be Colton had it for.
You on that well.
I didn't know all that, thanks.
Rogers has done some for us. Yeah, we have a handful. And Rogers is one that's worked with us through that. So,
You got any other?
yes, I remember on our website, we have a contract, but otherwise I can get it to you. But we work with.
Yeah, if you would.
Just email it to you.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll do that. Yep.
yeah. That one I've been stumbling over forever and it's like, yeah, I should probably do that.
So, going on over there, you don't want the municipal court. In the village, don't want. it. Because you can't afford it.
You want the real story
I
or
don't
the
know,
rest
but
of the
I got a
story?
call from Bob Schmeichel. And, oh, well, they're all, Bob wants to kick in another $7,000 from each town. I don't know where they're gonna get that money